Bill, for putting this together. Thanks for putting this weekend together, this day together. This is you got the right weather, and you got the right people in the right place. So, do I know any of you behind here, Foster Grants? My name is Eric Ziegler, and I have a little place in Elizabeth called Double E Farm. My wife's name is Elizabeth, and my name is Eric, so we decided to call it Double E Farm. I've been working with horses since the mid 90s. Are you gonna pee? Are you just gonna act like it? And I'll introduce you to this horse. I've been working with horses since the mid 90s. I started out in Seattle at a little place called the National School of Academic Equitation, and I had the good fortune or bad fortune, I don't know, good fortune or bad fortune, to be first exposed to riding, serious riding, in my mid-20s from a strictly classical perspective. So my riding, it's a bit rarefied in the sense of the kind of work we do, the way we handle horses, the way we work the aids, and the way we focus on balance and movement. It's just that there are other ways of doing it. We need to. And of course, the classical horsemanship lineage pretty much starts in Europe, Italy, France, Portugal, Spain, what are known as the Latin-speaking countries, countries whose languages are based in Latin. So you will often hear me talk about this work in the Latin tradition. So it's horsemanship in the Latin tradition. When horsemanship comes to North America, are all of you Western riders? Are you all Western riders? No, you're right. Quote English, right? There's nothing English about English riding, but unless you're going really, really fast after foxes. I know people. When horsemanship comes to North America, and essentially really it starts in 1492 with the arrival of Columbus. So with the Columbian invasion, when horses arrive in North America and the islands, the horsemanship that's brought with them is classical horsemanship. Now that is to say, it may be done better or worse depending on who is actually riding, but they're Spaniards. And so the Spaniards and Portuguese. So Spaniards and Portuguese bring their horsemanship, which is this riding in the Latin tradition, and what they end up doing is spreading this kind of horsemanship, including the saddle, all across North America, right, with little sort of pockets of true English riding, and I mean English riding from England, in the Northeast, right, and a little bit sort of along the eastern seaboard. But besides that, most of the horsemanship that's going on in North America, from the beginning of Central America all the way up, is Spanish horsemanship. And so then you get all these different traditions that grow out of it. So what this work, even though my saddle doesn't have a saddle horn, and even though I'm not working cattle all the time, I am wearing this hat because it's really, really hot out here, and we do live in Colorado. But I'm not a quote Western rider, and but we bridge that gap. This is Sonoro. He is a 22-year-old PSP Andalusian, so he has a little bit of Lusitano in him. So he wouldn't get the PRE moniker. Not that we care, because we gelded him pretty early on. We've had him since he was 2. And he has survived 3 colic surgeries. I know. And I wonder sometimes whether this is a result of a little bit of scar tissue and he's stretching out. But the work we do here, the work I'm going to show you, is very, very basic. And one of the sort of the things that we talk about is there's no such thing as advanced horsemanship. There's just basic horsemanship done really, really well. And so when you see, maybe Andalusians bullfighting, or when you see horses doing airs above the ground, when you see horses doing flying lead changes, when you see all of these things that you might look at and go, man, I wish my horse would do that. barring things like physical problems, orthopedic problems, hoof problems, neck problems. The kissing spine is becoming more and more diagnosed these days. Barring all that kind of stuff, the horses can do it based on just the 3 aids that exist, right? So a lot of people are going to say, wait a minute, there are more than 3 aids. How many of you think there are more than 3 aids or cues when you're working a horse? You think there are more than 3? Okay. You think there are more than 3? Anybody else think there are more than 3? There are 3 aids that everything boils down to, okay? And they are the direct rein, the indirect rein, and the half halt. That's it. You don't have anything else. You might think you have something else, but what we really have when we start applying aids on top of aids, or cues on top of cues, is sort of a bastardization or a conglomeration or sort of a mush of lots and lots of things that we're telling the horse to do at the same time, right? So the first thing to think about is that I only have 3 aids, and with those 3 aids, direct rein, indirect rein, and half halt, I can do anything I want, anything that a horse can handle, right? And this old guy is not gonna do any capriole or levade or anything. Well, he might do levade, but everything stays really, really simple. And so everything is just basic horsemanship done hopefully really, really well. And so the whole point of this talk, and I won't go too long, but I think the whole point of this talk should be how can I understand those aids done in hand so that I can then transfer that to working in the saddle. Okay, so here's another question for you we can sort of put in the parking lot. How many of you think that what you do on the ground is different from what you do in the saddle? Nobody? Okay, that's great. That's a very unusual response. Most people think that what they do on the ground has to be different from what they do in the saddle, right? Because, well, for one thing, I'm right here. I'm holding the horse here, right? And I can't do that in the saddle, right? I have legs on the horse, which I don't, in the saddle, which I don't have here, right? So what I'm doing now then is the first demonstration. So as I come forward here with Sonoro, I'm just applying a direct rein, right? What does the direct rein do? Anybody? What does the direct rein do? Controls his forehand. Can you be more specific?
Like in dressage, it's like, you're controlling the front of the horse
okay.
rather than the back of the horse.
So if I do a direct rein, what's that going to do?
Lead him where you need to go.
Okay. So you're saying that when I do a direct rein, he moves his shoulders over.
To where you're going.
Okay.
I don't know, it's a guess.
Yeah. Okay, it can. We can move his head with the rein. That's true. That's true. I'm gonna answer that one directly. It is the biggest problem I have when I work with when somebody calls me and says, "Hey, can you help me work with this horse?" They're trained Western Trail horse, or they're a cattle horse or whatever, and they're really, really sweet. But we just want to work on our connection, and I'm a little unsure of what I'm doing. It's a great reason to call me, right? One of the first things that I have to fix on most quote-unquote Western trained horses is that when I do this, the shoulders come to me, and that is the thing I have to eradicate. So to answer to respond to what you said, I never want the shoulders to move when I do it directly. Never. Right? What the rein effects do then? Well, what do the rein effects do? These are really simple, basic questions, but they're really hard to answer. What do the rein effects do? Well, you can steer. You do steer with them. That is true. You do steer with them. But by what means? Right? How does it work? Pressure. Okay. Movement of the head. All right. What if I said to you, none of that is true? What the rein effects do is to balance the horse on a particular corner of his body. Okay, so the direct rein, also called the leading rein, also called the opening rein, right? You can hear them in all forms. Whether I'm in the saddle or on the ground, when I bring his head and shoulders over this leg, right, it's going to put the weight on this point, this leg, that hoof, this toe, right? Sorry, bud. And that's why it's called the direct rein, because the effect of this rein is directly underneath us, okay? If the weight is here on this foot when I do a direct rein, then what's the only part of the horse that can move? What's that? Well, it can, but if I do my job right, his head shouldn't move at all, because I'm not pulling backwards, I'm opening. We'll get to that in just a second. It's an opening rein, right? When I do this, I sit on the horse and I'm turning, I open this one. I never pull this one. If I pull, if I on Sonoro and I do this, all he's going to do is bring his head toward me. And they can go anywhere. He can bite my foot and gallop off in that direction. It'll be like the world's worst, most dangerous shoulder in movement, right? Right? My horse is popping out the outside shoulder. I keep pulling his head around and he won't go in that direction. You're making it easier for him. Okay, because you put the weight here. So if I put the weight here, guess what moves? Hindquarters. And where's the point of rotation? Well, not point of rotation, but where's the pivot point? Is that hoof, right? It's that hoof. Okay. My direct rein looks like this. It's just an opening rein. Oh, thank you. That was more than we wanted. That was more than we wanted. Let's see if we can get him to this one. You gonna stay in that spot for me? You're making me look bad. There he goes. There he goes. Right? So this rein, direct rein, puts the weight on this leg, this hook. Here, buddy. Right. Okay. What about the indirect rein? Right. So what is the indirect rein? Anybody? Bueller. Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you mean by keeps the other shoulder from popping out, or did I mishear you because of the rumbling? Sorry.
I'm just thinking on my dressage training.
Right.
Like inside-outside rein.
Yes.
Like keeping that inside rein, head slightly on the bed.
Yeah.
But then keeping that outside shoulder from popping. I don't know.
You're breaking my heart.
I'm just
No,
guess.
this is why I actually have more in common with Western riders than actually modern dressage, competitive dressage, because what you're talking about is a wonderful, perfect example of reins of opposition. Reins of opposition. Would you just chill? Reins of opposition are reins that oppose one another to constrain the horse and put him into. He's not constrained. Okay, so the indirect rein does exactly the opposite of the direct rein, right? It actually puts the weight on the opposite hind, okay? So it shifts the weight on the opposite hind. So if I do an indirect rein, come here. He's going to rotate, hopefully, come on, bud, on that leg. And he's taking a little step forward. Oh, I lost the haunches, right? So if you lose the haunches, no. If you lose, there's your little Avod. If you lose the haunches, you just quickly do a direct rein because it moves the haunches back to where you have it. Okay, so what you have then is with this rein, we're calling it the inside rein because it's on the inside of the horse right now where I'm standing. Happens to be the near side, happens to be the left rein. But with this rein, I can put the weight here and I can put the weight here. Guess what? That's the diagonal I'm standing on. And since we all know our diagonals, it's not a problem. We know that I can put the weight here with a direct rein. I can put the weight here with an indirect rein. Now that he's pooping, he's going to stand there. Okay, so what about the other side? How do I put the weight on this leg with this rein? How do I put the weight on this leg, the other diagonal, with this rein? Anybody? It's a trick question. What do you think the answer is? You can't. Cannot be done. Cannot be done. Now the horse can do it. They do that to us all the time. They change rein on us. You know, you're riding and you think, okay, I'm setting him up for a canter depart, and then he goes, nope. And the next thing you know, you're on the other rein. Right? And that happens all the time. That's just the horse had an idea. It wasn't my idea. It may not be the best idea, but it's the idea that the horse has. Right, buddy? Okay. So your rein effects then are direct rein, which is an opening rein, indirect rein, which is a closing rein on the neck. There you go, buddy. There's your indirect rein. Okay? That's how you shift weight from one corner to the other. And that's it. That's all you have. Except for half halt. Well, what about half halt? God, you are just nuts today. What is the half halt? It's the other. It's the other rein effect that I mentioned. It's the third one. What is it? Everybody has a different definition of it, right? Because people do it differently. Okay, you can squeeze the reins. That's how they do it, for sure. Absolutely. Just a little squeeze. The horse goes into the next size gallop, right? And you could even do it. They even do it to change lead on the racetrack. So if you're galloping incredibly fast and the horse is very flat out, if I squeeze here and release, I can get the horse to change lead, which I need to do at the gallop if I want to come out on the outside of the pack. Pack, what do they call it? Not sure. I've forgotten. And then as I pass, I might do this again, and then my horse is going to change, and I can get back in front of those people. I just pass, and then as I make the turn, the last turn, I can do that. So yeah, that is exactly how it's done in racing. But we're not doing it that way ourselves very often, right? And I'll tell you why. But what else? Does anybody else have a different definition of a half halt?
Yeah, I use it all the time.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
I want to slow it down.
Okay.
Or if I want to do
Okay. And you're squeezing with the fingers? Is that what do you?
inside rein.
What's that?
Usually inside rein.
Inside rein. Okay. Yeah, you can half halt on a single rein, and we can get to that in just a second. Anybody else have a half halt they want to talk about? Okay. The half halt was first described by François Robichon de la Guernière in 1733 in his book École de Cavalerie, or School for Horsemen. Right? It's been translated. You can get it. I think you can get it from Half Halt Press, or maybe Xenophon. The half halt he describes is very different, right? It is a raising of the rein and a raising of the horse's head, neck, and shoulders. But the shoulders don't actually rise; they actually rotate this way. Okay, this whole trunk here, it's kind of rhombus shaped, actually rotates in this direction. That gives us the sensation of the withers rising. The withers are actually rotating this way. So they're here and they rotate this way. It's I think it's 5 bones in the spinous process there that make up what we call the withers. And as they do that, it gives you that feeling of the horse coming up, right? And it happens different ways. But what de la Guernière tells us about the half halt, and what we pursue in our work in this classical rabbit hole that I live in, is a small circular motion from below to above and slightly back, meaning finishing the circle just a little bit, right? Why do we say back, right? Do we say back because I want to pull in the horse's mouth? It's back because if I'm here and I raise his head and neck just a little bit, come on, bud. There we go. Shifts the weight toward the haunches, right? And as he does that, his head actually gets a little bit closer to me, right? So I can come up, his head comes higher a little bit, then there's a little bit of slack in the rein, and then I can either close my fingers to take up that slack, I can adjust my rein to take up that slack, conceivably I could lean back to take up that slack, but I probably won't. But what de la Guernière tells us is just bring your hands back a little bit, so you're in the touch that you want, which with a Western rig might be very long and low, very hanging here. With Romal reins, it's great because they're so heavy. The horse feels that in the mouth. If you're riding in a classical way with a horse that doesn't know the work, you're going to be in more touch, right? And certainly in competitive dressage, you're going to be in more touch. Okay, I know. So those are your 3 aids. And what does the half halt do then? People say it slows the horse down. Some people said, what else was there? We were talking about lead changes. It's part of that too. What else? What else does the half halt do for us? Yeah, yes, preparation. Yeah. It's funny. When I was talking to a horseman out in Kiowa, and we were talking about the sort of that continuation of horsemanship from the Spanish into what we call Western riding today. And I was talking about the half halt. He says, yeah, I hear a lot about that. I don't really know. And so I told him, I said, well, in the classical world, and again, this was classical horsemanship I was talking about. I wasn't about to represent, quote unquote English riding in general. But in classical horsemanship, I explained to him what it was, and he goes, oh yeah, we got that. We call it the get ready. And yes, that's exactly right, which is what y'all were saying, was something's coming. Absolutely, right? That's absolutely correct. So it is a prepare, something's going to happen, right? And it's also a slight shift of weight. Okay. Now it could be a tremendous shift of weight. You can have horses are what they tell us, they're 60% on the forehand, 40% on the hind, right? In terms of their distribution of weight because of the head. Different breeds obviously will have it different. Different conformations, it'll be different as well. If your horse is riding long and low and he's coming along and you want to change that weight, you're just going to come up slightly, right? And he shortens the walk. So what we should see, come here, butthead. What we should see is a long walk. He's marking here, and then if I take it slightly up, he shortens the walk. Now if he's really doing his job, he's only going to, thank you, he's only going to shorten and he's not going to slow, right? Now, if you get clocked by the state police, by a traffic cop, and they clock you with a radar gun, yes, you will be going slower after you half halt than you were before it, right? You're covering ground more slowly, but that's because the steps are smaller, not because he went, oh, now I'm just slowing down. And that's one of the things you have to go through with a horse when you're training them is, can you shorten without actually slowing your pace? Miles per hour wise, yes, the horse will be going slower. Okay, so there are your three aids, right? In a nutshell. It's a big nutshell. I've been talking for too long on that subject. That's it. You have your direct rein, your indirect rein, and your half halt. That's it. I can steer this horse entirely with a single rein. If one rein breaks, I can finish the show with a single rein, and it's been done. It's happened on cross-country courses. It's happened on show jumping courses where somehow this breaks. It should never happen, but it does happen. And you can finish assuming you pull the rein through his mouth, the bit through his mouth. You can do that, and somebody with a really light hand can pull that off. Okay, so what's the line of pressure then for the direct rein and the indirect rein and the half halt? It's the line of pressure, right? So if I'm on the horse here, right? Can you move your head for me? Thank you. Okay. How am I going to do my direct rein on this hand, say, because that's where he's standing? From the what? Well, I think I know what you're saying, but no, I mean, what's my hand gonna do? Yeah, it's just gonna open. It's just gonna open. I'm never gonna pull backwards. You're never gonna pull backwards in this lineage of horsemanship. Pull is our four-letter word. You can use any four-letter word except pull, right? So I don't want to pull, right? Pulling on the rein doesn't actually do much for changing the posture of the horse. Right? It applies pressure in the mouth, sometimes pain in the mouth, right? Which you can then get the horse to associate with what it is you want, but it doesn't actually redistribute the weight the way we want the horse's weight to be redistributed. So if I want to walk behind you all, right, to get back to an original statement, which was it turns the horse, my direct rein must never be back along the length of his body. So I'm going to turn around this way. Right? I'm going to ask him to turn. When am I going to ask him to turn? When am I going to apply the aid? Am I going to apply it the whole way every time I want to turn? You could say that. I mean, that would be a lot to ask for. I mean, he doesn't know what I want, but that would be like awesome self-carriage, for sure. Yeah. Sonoro, stay in self-carriage and follow me around this circle, right? He's probably not going to do it. But he might. I know dogs that would. Actually, I know horses that would. But that would be no aid at all, right? So when am I applying the aid? I'll give you a hint. Remember what I said about all it does is put the weight on the inside front? Right? So that means, what that means is that if he's not on the inside front, this aid doesn't do anything. If he's on the outside front, or any of the other three legs, it's not going to do anything. I only apply the aid now, 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 now. That's it. It's the only time I'm applying this aid. Okay? If I switch sides, change. Good boy. Now, now, now. That's it. Because if I do that, then I can get his haunches to move. But if he's not on that foot, one of two things is going to happen. He's going to feel like he's pulling against me, because he is, because he's on another foot. Or he's going to quickly speed up and get on that hoof, because he knows the aids. He's 22. He knows the work. And he might just do that. He might just say, okay, well, I'll meet you halfway. You screwed up, but I'll meet you halfway. Okay, so the opposite is also true. My indirect rein is only effective when? When is the indirect rein effective? When he's on not just on his haunches, you are correct, but that particular leg, right? Now this is tricky because unless your horse, and I have one that's like this, he's massive, he's so big, I can actually see underneath him. So you have to kind of cheat, and I can teach you how to cheat this, but I'm only going to apply this rein effect now, 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 now. Oh, he halted straight. Why did he halt straight? Because he was already pretty much on his haunches. And the only thing he could do by that rein effect as I halted him is to swing his body in this direction, which he couldn't do anymore because he didn't have any forward. I killed it, right? Okay, so you're only going to apply the indirect rein when he's on this leg. Now, if you have a horse that knows this stuff, he may just meet you, like I said, meet you halfway and just say, oh, okay, he's getting it like every other time. Okay, that's fine. That's a great place to start. It doesn't have to be 100% correct. Eventually, you'll notice, after a while, you'll say, oh, wow, it used to be I couldn't get the horse to make a tight circle, right? But now that I do it just when this leg's on the ground, now, I can do this. And I don't feel like I'm dragging my horse around, okay? And it's because you've done it based on the balance of the horse, not because you pulled him in a certain direction, not because you fought him until he said, okay, I'll go over here. And we're not moving the shoulders, we're moving the haunches, and we're moving the shoulders when we use the indirect rein, and that's it, right? So, what does that mean about circles? What does it tell us about circles? Circles and straight lines are really, really hard. Doing a good straight line is really hard. Doing a good circle is really hard. I think it was Caravaggio got the job painting something, working on some project in Renaissance Italy, because his job interview was essentially a chalkboard and he drew an absolute perfect circle. And they said, oh wow, that's amazing, you get the job, right? So, because circles are really, really hard. So what that means is that your horse doesn't really walk a circle. Eventually he will. But what it means is that your horse walks a really, really long polygon, okay? So if I want him to follow me in a circle, I walk, and then I move the haunches. And then I walk, and then I move the haunches. And then I walk, and then I move the haunches. And then I walk, and then I move the haunches, right? That's our polygon. And however many times you rotate the horse is how many polys you have on your gon. Okay? So a square is going to be come forward, halt the horse, Ask him to move his haunches. Not too much. Don't give me too much, buddy. A little bit more. Good. Halt. Come forward. Ask him to move his haunches. Direct rein, because he's turning on the forehand. Come forward. Ask him to move his haunches. And then the last one to finish the box. I think that. Ooh, there's our box, right? So that's a square. Okay? If you're walking a circle, the closer you get to a circle, the more you're actually asking the horse to take that step and rotate his body. So a turn is a combination of two things. It's forward motion, which I call the secret sauce, and a rotation. So I can rotate the horse on his haunches or his forehand, and that's what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to ask him to step forward. If I don't have forward, what do I end up with? There's going to be no forward here. Tell me what this is. Oops. And it's just a turn on the haunches. I mean, not a great one. Admittedly, this is better. But it's just a turn on the haunches. If I go forward though, now I have a polygon of some sort. Okay. This is not what people do when they ride. 99% of the riding populace doesn't do this, right? What they do is they want to pull their horse left and pull their horse right. They want to halt their horse, or they want to turn their horse, or more likely turn their horse, right? Or the one that's really hard to get students to stop doing once they start doing it is turn their horse. Get his shoulders to move toward me by neck reining. But where's my hand? Where's my hand? It's on the wrong side of the horse. It's not an indirect rein anymore. His haunches were moving. So what is it? It's a perverted turn on the forehand. Right? So that's what happens when you cross the withers. So you don't ever want to cross the withers. The other thing is that you're actually pulling on the horse's mouth. And the pulley is his neck. Okay. So I don't want to do that. I want to keep everything when I'm in the saddle or when I'm working in hand. I want to keep everything here. Walk. Good. Good. I want to keep everything right here. And I could just turn this way. Right? Most of this is a little bit of a turn on the haunches, a little bit of a turn on the center. Okay? Ooh. All right. What's the difference between a half halt and a full halt? There's a couple answers to this. In your own experience, because I want to try to relate it to what you all do and experience. What's the difference between a half halt and a full halt? Right, exactly. In terms of how you accomplish it, what do you do? And there's a million ways to train a horse, a million ways to ride. This is just one, right? This isn't me saying, oh, you're all horrible and you need to stop doing it, but stop riding. I'm not saying that at all. What are you going to do when you want to halt your horse?
Like for me, if I'm doing a half halt, if I'm full halt, I'm risking.
Okay, so you just increase the tension on the rein into the horse's mouth. Okay.
My wrist.
Okay. And does he halt on his haunches? Yeah, he halts on his haunches. Okay. Okay, great. Anybody else? I know you halt your horses. How do you halt your horse?
I just count the stops.
You use vocal commands. Okay, you're joking. Okay. But how do you halt your horse? What do you do? Oh, what? Oh, so whoa. So you do it with no rein aid at all. Okay, so you sit back in your seat. Okay. What did you do? How do you train the horse to do that? What do you do when the horse doesn't know what that is? Okay. So you rode around a lot on him and you couldn't stop him?
No.
Okay, so he was trained already. Okay, gotcha. Okay.
My horse, because I trained him,
Yeah.
he didn't know how to stop.
Right.
He was like, no, I'm just going to go.
Right, I'm just gonna keep going.
All the time.
Yeah.
So we did a lot of stops, and then I had to use my reins.
Yeah.
I used both reins
Yeah.
at first to
Right.
stop it. But as I was doing that, I would tip my pelvis.
Okay.
And then I would slowly stop using my reins.
Yeah, you can do it that
My
way.
pelvis. And then eventually he's like, okay, we're just, my
Anybody else?
Why?
Those are great examples. How do y'all do? Whoa.
I pull back.
Okay, so you
If I have
bring the reins back. Okay. So pressure in the mouth. Got it.
Then I sit back.
Okay. So you're using seat and hand.
So I rotate back also.
Uh huh.
And then go low, and then I will actually.
Come with the reins.
Yeah.
So you'll come into the mouth. Okay. It's very common. I mean, that's how most people do this. When you are tipping your pelvis, what you're doing is you're constricting the latissimus dorsi, the back strap muscles. You're constricting them so they don't move so well. And when they don't move so well, the horse goes, "Oh, okay, you got it." In classical tradition, and this is. There are people that don't do this in the classical tradition, but what we get out of the literature from the 16th, 17th, and 18th centuries is that the only difference between a full halt, that is actually stopping, and a half halt is adding more half halt until he can't move forward anymore. So what you're never going to see is a horse with his head up high and the weight on, and it doesn't even have to have his head up high, because it could be a quarter horse with his head down low. Run away with you, right? They could do all kinds of other stupid stuff. I mean, because they're masters of their own body, right? Horsey jiu-jitsu. It's like I can wrestle you any way you want, and they can win, which is why we don't want to get into wrestling matches with them. But what you're not gonna see is the weight moving toward the haunches, and it's never 100% on the haunches until the horse is in hi-ho silver mode, right? But as they make that shift of weight toward the haunches, what they end up doing is beginning to shorten to the point where even if you do it immediately, they stop immediately. They've shortened to the point where, they can't go forward anymore, and that's how you're going to get your halt. Now, does it always look like that? No. Thank goodness. I don't need to do a sliding stop every time I ride my horse. So if I want him to halt, there's my halt. Right? Not particularly straight. Thanks. And it's done strictly by a raising of the hand, not by any rear retraction of the hand. Never pulling back. Right? You don't want to do that. Now, if I pull back here, all kinds of things could happen. I could do this, and he might move his butt. He might start to back up. He doesn't. We don't do it, so he's not really sure what I want. The reason why we want to only lift. Come here. Oh yeah, you see those guys? They're playing polo. What we want to do is we want to shift that weight, right? So you can shift it to one of the corners, or you can shift it to the haunches. And he's looking very Andalusian. Come here. Come on. All right. So any questions about this? Yeah.
When you're training new horses,
Yeah.
and you're not pulling back at all
Mhm.
to teach them, so are you just pulling out with one or the other rein?
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure the horse can whoa, right? And if the horse can whoa, and they're going to learn this on just the halter, right? And I'm just going to vibrate this halter, and I might chuck him under the chin a little bit. Come on. Yeah, and start to back him up. And that's going to be where that comes from. And that's going to be moving the weight toward the haunches. Right? Now, if he resists and arches his back and brings his back down, he's actually putting weight on the forehand as much as anywhere else. So in that case, you just change it up, and you say, okay, we're going to circle, right? We're going to circle, and then here, there's my. Oh, see, he's too sensitive here. Do it wrong. Do it wrong. So as I circle, I'm going to come up. There we go. And there we go. And there we go. Right. So if I have a horse that bears down on me and says, I'm not moving my weight backwards, right? And it may not be visible in the movement of the head and neck, right? Because it might be a quarter horse that's built very downhill, right? And I have a couple horses that are built very downhill, and I'm not interested in having them carry themselves like a chess piece. I just don't want that. For one of them, it's because she's arthritic in one of the hocks, or in both her hocks. So it hurts her to do that. So it's like, why would I do that? I raise it until I don't need to raise it anymore, right? So that's what you would do if you had that. And then eventually you say, okay, we've done the right, we've done the left, now let's do both. Right. And it's going to be, days and days and days before you get that. But what most people don't work on, and this is especially true of Andalusian horses, is they're so impressed with the way they naturally collect themselves, they do that too much. And they don't forward the horse enough. They don't actually get the horse moving forward, right? And there are a couple of different authors that talk about how to do that really, really well. De la Guerinière does, Kerbrecht does it, Boucher talks about it, even Antoine Pluvinel talked about it from the Italian schools. But getting that horse to move forward. Ray Hunt and the Dorrance brothers talked a lot about that. And they read De Carpentry. De Carpentry was, he wrote a book in 47, right about the same time that the FEI rules for dressage were being codified. And it's called Academic Equitation. And it's his attempt to take this really deep classical work in the competitive world and merge them. And I think he has success in certain chapters and not success in other chapters. But the great thing about that is that lots of people have written about that, and because these books are translated and we get people in the Western world reading these books going, oh, that's what I do. Where did I learn that? I learned that from my lineage. Where did that come from? Spain, right? Or Portugal. Right? So I hope that answers your question.
It does.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just learning.
Yeah.
I didn't do dressage
Right.
last year. So for my course now that I have not him,
Mm-hmm.
what he wants to do is he wants to walk like this, very superficial.
Okay.
So he wants to constantly drop in.
Right.
And then he trips over himself.
Yeah, sure.
And he's not. And then finally, if I push him forward,
Right.
and he gets his hind end under,
Yes.
then he's like, oh,
Okay, I can do the work.
But
Right.
and he's very hyper-vigilant, so he's like,
Oh, he's always on pins and needles.
so
Walking on
it takes him
eggshells.
20 minutes to finally like, oh, if I just
Yeah.
drop this down,
Yeah.
I'm good. So that's why I was trying to figure out like how you do the reins. Because what I'm taught is to just keep that outside rein here.
Yeah.
So he's balanced on it.
My suggestion would be to get off of that outside rein.
Okay.
And not because I think you're doing anything wrong. I think you can continue doing what you're doing and get exactly what you want. But it's going to take a while. And the reason is because when we're in that situation, we're often doing other things with our legs and our hands to complement what it is we're doing, right? So if I turn this horse, here's a perfect example. If I turn this horse by direct rein, okay, I'm going in a circle. Okay, here we go. Direct rein. What leg am I touching the horse with when I do this? Can't hear you. Say again.
Inside.
Okay. Anybody disagree with that?
I do,
Okay.
because I can.
Okay. What happens if I use the outside leg while I'm doing a direct rein?
I guess we flash them. Dropping to the outside. I don't know.
That is no. It's not the shoulder. It's the haunches. You're blocking the haunches, right? Because when I do my direct rein, I'm swinging his butt around. His haunches. There go the haunches. If I clamp my leg on, don't point your guns at people. Sorry, that was my fault. If I clamp that leg on the outside, thinking that I'm taking him here on the front and pushing him here, and I'm kind of molding him around in a circle, almost like somebody's turning a clay pot, where they put their hand inside the clay and they put their hand in the outside of the clay. I only know this because I saw ghosts. Actually, that's not true. My mom makes pottery, but and that's what you're doing. Is I'm molding it into the direction I want, and it's spinning, and the clay is taking the shape. You don't want to do that with your horse, because what you end up with is I'm blocking the outside, and then what's going to happen in my turn is I'm probably going to confuse my horse. How will the horse know which one to pay attention to? Because you can't pay attention to both at the same time, right? So he can't. He's not going to know. So we always use the leg on the same side of the rein, right? Have you learned shoulder in yet? Okay. Inside rein, outside hand, inside leg, outside rein.
That's exactly what we're working on
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah. So that's what you're doing. What happens, right? It can be done. It is done. It's done every day. Right? People win lots and lots of money for their breeding stallions doing that in the Olympics and in shows, right? The problem with that is that you're actually contorting the horse in such a way that he can't move through the line you want with your leg on it. And the hand, the dominant hand, right, here, which is doing two things, it's creating the bend, it's also steering the horse, right? You're not steering with this rein here. So, walk, come on. Go. So if I come here, here's my shoulder in. It's just that my line is going toward the garbage can. Right? So there's my shoulder in. This is a 4-track shoulder in, right? So not very impressive. Right? Can you do a 3-track? Good. Steinbrecht would be proud. All the old dead European white men, right? Okay, so here's my 3-track shoulder in. Where's my outside leg? If you have to have an outside leg, how did I do that? Where's my outside leg?
Yes, you have your outside leg on.
Where, right now, where's my outside leg? I'm talking about right now. I don't have one. I don't have an outside leg. What do I have? What? How many aids do I have? Or how many rain effect aids do I have? I have one rein. That's it. Right? Because you can do this on a halter, just a plain halter with a lead line. Right? There's my shoulder in. Right? And he's pretty much in 3-track. I could make it bigger. I could go 4-track. Till Garnier would have liked this one. Right? What aids do I use to create this motion? I'll give you a hint. You only have 3. What's that? Direct rein to move his haunches there. And then if he does too much, I use indirect rein. Right? So here's direct rein. Right? Let's bring him around the corner. Good boy. Walk. Good. And indirect rein. Otherwise we're gonna hit the igloo cooler. Okay. So that's it. So as I come around this corner then, he's gonna rotate on the haunches. Don't overdo it, buddy. Good. And then here's our shoulder in. Right? Assuming that the rail is to the outside. Okay. I don't need an outside rein, I don't need an outside leg. All I need is an inside leg and an inside rein. And if my hand is too heavy, he's going to give me that weird cocked head situation. So that's the alarm going off, and he's saying, "Hey, your hand is too heavy." Okay, and that's cool. And I say, "Okay, I don't do that. I let it go." That's it. No outside leg. Now, how do we know that this works not just for me here in a clinic with a 22-year-old horse who will do anything I ask him? How do we know that this is true? Go to the Paralympics and watch people ride with one leg or no legs. Or, I mean, there are amputees here and they're riding. Now, some of them have weights to give the horse a sensation of a leg, but they're not moving those things. Right? So this can be done, right? It can be done. You do not need to use an outside leg, right? If I put outside leg on this horse while I do a direct rein, he's going to halt. Because as interested as he seems right now, his favorite thing to do is just stop, put his head down, and go to sleep. Because he's an old man. So in this case, I'm not going to do that at all. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stay with just my one rein. If I use one rein here to do the shoulder in, and I goof it up, and it doesn't work, guess which rein it was that failed? That one! That one. It was just that one. I only have one, right? If I put a leg on a horse and he doesn't listen to what I want, which leg was it? It was that leg. Right? So I don't want to stack aids on top of each other. Reduction of aids, right? So all of this goes into then the subject of, well, what good is this for riding? Okay. Well, the first thing is I'm not going to make my horse old. That's the first thing. I'm not going to do 2 rein effects, a leg effect, and then expect the horse to do something, right? Because it's too much. And even worse than that, if I can't figure out, if it doesn't work, If I can't figure out which one of those three, I can't diagnose the problem. Right? So you have to do this in a scientific way. You have to go, all right, we're gonna take it down to just a single aid, right? And since you only have 3 aids, it makes life a lot easier, right? As far as the leg is concerned, what are the 2 leg aids you can give? Keeping it really simple.
On, off.
That's it. On and off. That's it. Your leg is either there or it's not there, right? Or it's less there. Right? It can't be a sliding scale. Right? You can squeeze your horse really hard, but they can feel a fly land on him in a windstorm. So why do I need to squeeze really hard? He knows the leg. Do any of you know? Have you heard of Zeno's paradox? Do you know what that is? So Zeno was a philosopher in, I want to say, 5th century Greece. I think it's 5th century. And he thought to himself, if the world can be broken down into an infinite number of tiny, tiny particles, right, and that's in which he called atoms. He didn't know what atoms really were, but that's what he called them. And Democritus also did this too. One was a disciple of the other. If I can do that, can I do that with space, right? So between you and me, stay there, is the middle, okay? Okay, I'm gonna walk halfway to you, okay? Come on, someone. Okay, walk. Stop. Okay, now there's another half, right there, okay? I'll walk. I'm gonna keep cutting the distance in half, okay? There's half. Okay, here, getting closer. Now I have to go here. Am I ever gonna reach you? Really? But I keep cutting it in half. I know, but am I ever going to reach you? Okay, now go here. But if I can always cut the distance in half, there's always going to be a distance to go, isn't there? It means I'll never reach you. So they called it Zeno's paradox. Because the paradox is I never stop walking, but I never actually reach. I never reach it because I'm always cutting it in half. Okay. Now, why am I telling you this silly story? The reason I'm telling you this silly story is that that's how you want to conceive of your touch with the horse. So if my leg is on the horse, can I take it a certain distance away, half of the distance before my leg is actually, quote, off the horse, right? So we're going to stipulate that I have on and off, okay? So if I go here, okay, I'm still on. I'm going to go half that distance now. It's still on. I'm going to go half that distance. I'm always going to be on. I'm never going to reach off, just like I can't reach you, because there's always a way to cut the distance in half. Now, it's a paradox, and the reason it's a paradox is it's not possible. None of this is actually possible. We're real people in the real world, and I can't do that. There's no way that I can actually just move my feet. It's just not possible. I can't do it. So in the real world, you can't do it, but you want to think about doing it that way. So that's going to become your definition of touch, right? You don't want to be in zero touch. You're going to want to have your leg on the horse, but how light can it be, right? And so that's why this work gets you to really, really, really light movements with your animal. Okay.
About 5 minutes to the hour, Eric.
To wrap it up then, let me just toss this to you. To wrap it up then is the question, well, what good is this? This is great, Ziegler. This sounds like it's really good for riding in an arena when I don't have to worry about, lions and tigers and bears, oh my, or yucca plants jumping out at me, or any of that stuff. What it does for us is it creates the ability to ride your horse with really, really close precision. And if you ride on the trail then, what you're going to end up with is the ability to say, oh, I need to open this gate. Except I can't get to the gate, it's on the other side of me. Well, I need to move his haunches. Direct rein. Just moves the haunches. Okay. Oh, now I need to move the shoulders a little bit. Okay, there are the shoulders. Here are the haunches. Here are the shoulders. There's no point at which I'm going to shove my horse over with my leg, right? Now, can you train your horse to do all of this by the leg alone? Of course, you can. Sorry, I dropped my Mikey thing. You can absolutely teach your horse to do this with just the leg. But what the horse is going to do is going to pick a diagonal to work off of based on such bad form. Based on what they think you want, as opposed to what you actually want. Okay, so here, just this rein here is moving the haunches. That's it. It's just this outside rein. Well, it's outside now. It's inside here, so I can do it the other way. Right? Which leg is on? Inside leg. That's the left. Which rein is speaking? The inside rein is the left. Right? Now I can go, okay, now let's move the shoulders. Oh, he's backing up. Why is he backing up when I did that? Nope, it wasn't a pull. When your horse isn't really moving out and they get a little pokey, as he is wont to do, the request to move the shoulders, remember we said, where does the weight shift to? Shifts to the opposite hind, right? So right now it's on the hind, hopefully, it's on the hind left, okay? If I really move the weight to the hind, what's he gonna do? He's gonna back up, right? Because then it's a half halt that just went crazy, right? And he just starts walking backwards, which is fine. That just means I did too much. And which rein did I do too much with? No, not the rein effect. The effect was an indirect rein, right? Because he was moving his shoulders. But I was doing it with this rein here, right? How do I know that the problem is this rein? It's the only one I'm using. It's the only one I'm using. So one of the things that the old dead guys tell us is reduce your age, reduce it to 1. Reduce everything to 1. Find 0. Think of that paradox, Zeno's paradox, right? Where is 0? You're never going to get there, but you can try. And that's going to create the light movement. Right? So if you get piaffe, this is a kind of an old man piaffe, old man horse, old man rider, right? Oh, hello. You gonna give me a Levant? No. Okay. How is that happening? If I can do it on a descended rein, come on, show off for me. There we go. Okay. If it works, it's because he shifted his weight to the center. That's why piaffe is fun, because it's a proof of balance. Frustrating thing is that when you go for a trail ride, when you're coming home and the horse doesn't want to go or wants to go too fast, they start doing that. Now, Andalusians will do that, and it's kind of a pain in the butt. Anyway, so the work then is no rearward traction with the hand, right? I never want to pull. I only want to lift. Hey, thank you. I only want to lift a little bit. Come closer to the neck for indirect rein. Come away from the neck for direct rein. That's it. That's all I want to do. My outside leg is on with my outside rein. My inside leg is on with my inside rein. Right? What if I ride with the reins in 2 hands? Or sorry, excuse me, with 2 reins in 1 hand? How does he know which rein to listen to? They're both moving. And yet I can still do a turn on the haunches. I lift up to. How does he know that I mean this rein? Any ideas? It's the leg. He's going to listen to the rein where the leg is. He has to, because I never use the inside leg and outside rein or vice versa. I never cross my aids up. If I do, I kill the movement. Okay? Both reins, 1 leg. He halts. Okay? He's going to halt because I shut him down. And Boucher called that the combined effect. They fade most of it. But this work, when you reduce everything to 1 aid, direct rein, indirect rein, and half halt. That's it. everything. That's you can do it all with just that. And so going back to Democritus and Zeno, they didn't say that there were multiple kinds of subatomic particles because they didn't understand that kind of thing. But if they did, they would have said, oh, you're reducing the aids down to the finest subatomic particles you could possibly have. And that's it. And from those subatomic particles come every motion that your horse does. Direct drain, indirect drain, and half halt. Okay, that's it. So, same thing with the periodic table of elements. The whole world is made up of just those, how many elements are there? I don't know, it's 100 something, right? That whole world is made up of those, and that's all we've ever found in nature, right? So you can make everything from the trees to the speakers to the horse to me to the hat I'm wearing. Everything is made up of those subatomic particles. So you want to reduce everything down to its finest possible movement. And that's it. That's how this works.
Thank you.
Any questions? I know we're supposed to be over, but I'm happy to keep riding.